All right, why don't we go ahead? So we need to go back to, is it E3 or, yeah, E3?
Yes, the item is E3, Tax Program, Non-Appearance Matters Adjudicatory. Legal appeals, property tax matters, petitions for reassessment of unitary value.
All right, and there was a motion. You want to restate the motion so we can bring the controller up to speed?
Certainly. The motion was to adopt staff recommendation for all 7 cases: CCFC Sutter Energy LLC, Delta Energy Center LLC, Los Esteros Critical Energy Facility LLC, Metcalf Energy Center LLC, Otay Mesa Generating Company LLC, Pastoria Energy Facility LLC, and Russell City Energy Company LLC.
All right, and there was a motion I made, and it was seconded by Member Gaines. And I believe we had no written comments, and then we asked AT&T and nobody was on the line, correct?
Correct.
So with that, unless I see a hand from anybody, we will go ahead and call the vote. Go
Chairman
ahead.
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Chairman okay. Chairman Vasquez.
Aye.
Vice Chair Schaefer.
Aye.
Member Gaines.
Aye.
Member Cohen.
Aye.
Controller Yee.
Aye.
Okay, so that's unanimous of all those present. With that, Ms. Taylor.
Chairman
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Vasquez. Yes, this is Ms. Taylor. Ms. Garrett has an additional note to mention to the board members.
Sure.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor and Chair Vasquez and honorable members. I just wanted to note for the record that the Russell City Energy Company LLC petition is subject to revenue taxation section 40. Does the amount in controversy exceed $500,000 in tax? And so accordingly, after the board's decision today, the appeals attorney will prepare a written decision to memorialize the board's action, which I will bring back to the board for consideration in early 2022. And with that, thank you. That concludes this year's appeals season.
Thank you. With that, Ms. Taylor, if you would please call the next item.
Our next item is I1, Other Chief Counsel Matters, Organization of the Board. The board will nominate and elect a new chair and vice chair effective January 1, 2022. Chief Counsel, Mr. Henry Nanjo, will make introductory remarks.
Members, Chief Counsel will be right with you. He's having a little technical glitch. I apologize for the slight delay, and he will be right with us. Chief Counsel should be just getting everything set up now, so he's back and connected. I apologize for this slight delay with our technology. There he is. Thank you, members.
My apologies, members. So which item are we on, Chairman Vasquez?
We're on I1, Other Chief Counsel Matters.
Thank you very much. It is afternoon, so good afternoon, Chairman Vasquez, Vice Chairman Schaefer, and honorable members. As you may recall, on January 15th, 2021, the board adopted its governance policy, which included procedures for the election of the board chair and vice chair. Consistent with this governance policy, this agenda item is on for the board to elect a chair and vice chair to serve for the January 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2022 term. This conversation is a member-to-member discussion where a member may choose to nominate themselves or another member for either chair or vice chair. Additionally, members, it is your pleasure whether to elect a chair and vice chair together or separately. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Chairman Vasquez to continue with the item. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. It is now time to nominate and select members to serve in our board officer positions for the term beginning January 1st, 2022. First, we will open nominations for the board chair. This is an open nomination process, meaning any member may nominate themselves or another member for chair. Once all nominations have been made, each nominee will have 3 minutes to make a statement. Ms. Taylor will then call the roll, at which point each member has the opportunity to state the name of the member they are voting for as chair or whether they are abstaining from the vote. If a member receives the required number of votes, then members will be elected as chair. If no candidate receives the required number of votes, the board may discuss whether to reconsider any or all nominations. If no member receives the required number of votes, a tie may be declared consistent with Robert's Rules of Order. If there is a tie, the currently serving chair will continue to serve. To support or orderly process, I respectfully ask that you hold your questions and comments until you are called upon. If there are no other questions about this process, we can begin.
Chairman Vasquez, my apologies. I forgot to add one thing, if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
Chief Counsel Henry Nanja again, to finish up the kind of procedural reminders. There is no, pursuant to the governance policy I previously stated, there is no limit on serving consecutive terms. As you mentioned, if there's a tied vote according to the governance policy, the currently serving chair or vice chair, as the case may be, shall continue to serve. At this time, I'd like Ms. Taylor to confirm the number of votes necessary or the requisite number needed to elect a chair or vice chair. Ms. Taylor?
Thank you, Mr. Nanjo. As there are 5 members present, the majority to elect is 3 votes.
And that would conclude the procedural and legal remarks. So again, I turn it back to you to conduct the election. Thank you, sir.
Vasquez, I would like
Thank
to
you.
make a nomination.
With that, let me open it up, and I see Vice Chair Schaefer stepping up.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to nominate Malia Cohen as chair of the Board of Equalization for 2022.
Okay. Any other nominations? I see a hand from Member Gaines.
Yes, I would like to nominate Tony Vasquez as chair.
Thank you. Any other nominations? Seeing no other hands or comments, Ms. Taylor, if you would please call the roll on the 2 nominations. Well, you know what?
Can you hear me, Chair Vasquez?
Yes.
I'm frozen.
I'm sorry. I didn't see your hand, Ms. Stowers. I forgot. Go ahead. Ms. Stowers? I can't
Looks
hear
like
you.
Ms.
But I can
Stowers
see.
is, her screen is frozen and we can't seem to get her audio.
I see your hand though, but yeah.
Welcome to Verizon Wireless. Your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again. Announcement for Welcome to Verizon Wireless. Your call cannot be completed.
Ms. Stowers, I think we're,
Looks like she's having some
like she might be
technical
dialing back in.
difficulties.
So members, this is Brenda Fleming. I'm working with the Deputy Controller to have her log back in. I think she's clean now. You may proceed. Thank you.
I think I'm back. I froze.
You froze. All right, you're back.
I'm back. I was like frozen. I believe I heard a nomination for both Member Cohen and Chair Vasquez. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I was in the process of trying to make a second, and then I got frozen. I second Mike Schaefer's nomination of Malia Cohen.
Okay. Let me give the two, I guess, that were nominated an opportunity to give, I guess we can give 3 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and take a vote here. Ms. Cohen, you want to go ahead and start?
Oh, yeah, sure. I'll say just a few, just really brief remarks. Colleagues,
Sure.
I do hope to earn your support. As you know, I have provided leadership both during my term as chair and then also as a member, and look forward to continuing to work with our outstanding staff on continuing to steady the ship for the Board of Equalization and to continue the work that we've been doing this entire year on really important Board of Equalization issues, working with our stakeholders, our partnership groups, the assessment appeals boards, on some of the issues that we've been discussing all of this year and largely as a result of the pandemic. So I hope that you will consider supporting me. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, let me just open up. First of all, I wanted to thank the members for these last 2 years. And I know it's been a difficult time during this whole COVID period, but I'd like to, if it's the wishes of the board, to continue mainly for a couple of reasons. One, let me list a few things. You know, this last year was a very challenging year, but I think we were able to drill down real hard on Prop 19, not just to implement it, but also to make sure we had some legislation to modify it somewhat. And we're looking forward to hopefully continue some of those changes that need to be made still with the legislators through for some amendments to it. And there's even a movement, and I think we're going to need the legislators' support on this moving forward to possibly, if not modify it drastically, to possibly even reverse it. Because in my conversations throughout the state, and primarily in my district, there's a lot of folks that I think misunderstood this Prop 19. And I think we need to follow up on that and work with the taxpayers and specifically the homeowners, because it's intergenerational wealth. I think a lot of people misunderstood it when they were voting for it. The other thing that I was hoping to do is to continue our work that we started, especially on tax credits here, moving forward with possible tax credits for those that are interested in developing more affordable housing in the state of California. And the other real big one for me is how do we address, and we began this process working with several of you on the issue of trying to come up with some creative ways to get more folks in the pipeline to assist our county assessors as they look to try to deal with the workload that they have. And I'm hoping that we can continue that through our working groups, and looking forward for that to happen. And I would like to make sure that we continue many of the updates that we've been looking at our governance policy, not only our governance policy, but also some issues that I know some of you have raised with the Begley-King issue as well moving forward. And I'm looking forward to continuing some of those things that we started but weren't able to complete. And with your support, I'm really looking forward, and I'd be honored to have your support moving forward this next year. With that, let me turn it back over to Ms. Taylor and she can call the roll.
Thank you. Please state the name of your selection for chair. Chairman Vasquez.
Vasquez,
Vice Chair Schaefer.
Cohen.
Member Gaines.
Vasquez.
Member Cohen.
Cohen.
Deputy Controller Stowers.
Cohen.
so we have a majority, we have 3, so congratulations. Member Cohen, you will be the chair starting in 2022 in January. With that, let me open it up for vice chair. Any nominations for vice chair for 2022?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to nominate the current vice chair, Mr. Michael Schaefer, to be vice chair again.
Deputy Controller Stowers here. I second that nomination.
Hearing no other nominations, and I guess we could, you want to move this by acclamation?
We can move that by acclamation.
All right, why don't we do that? Unless there's an objection.
Well, I had a comment. Can I make that first?
Sure, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to continue as your vice chair, working in cooperation with all my fellow board members to move our board forward for 2022. Continue the great work that we have had fighting for taxpayer justice and representing the best interests of all taxpayers with fair, effective, and effective tax administration and support of our state and local governments. I also have learned so much from Ms. Cohen, working with her and under her, and I appreciate the fact that all of my colleagues have been down to San Diego to our offices, and I tried to get by to see them. I think we have a good team, and I want to thank those of you who have supported me.
Chairman Vasquez, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Henry.
Yes,
Nanja,
go ahead,
Council.
Mr. Nanja.
I believe procedure and protocol require a vote. So rather than vote by acclamation, I would recommend a roll call vote. Specifically, the governor's order regarding COVID and teleconferences regarding COVID, as well as companion legislation, requires roll call votes for any decisions of a board appearing by teleconference.
Not a problem. Let's, Ms. Taylor, if you would call the roll then.
Thank you. Please state the name of your selection for vice chair. Chairman Vasquez.
Mr. Schaefer.
Vice Chair Schaefer. Member Gaines.
Member Schaefer.
Member Cohen.
Mr. Schaefer.
And Deputy Controller Stowers.
Member Schaefer.
So that's unanimous. Congratulations, Vice Chair Schaefer. With that,
Chair,
Ms. Taylor,
Chair
I'm sorry.
Vasquez, I wanted to thank you for your leadership this past year. I learned a lot from you, and you've been down to our office a couple of times, and I think you've done an outstanding job as our chair for 2 years.
Thank you. Member Gaines.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Chair Vasquez, for your leadership for the last 2 years. I feel like we've made a lot of progress with the BOE, and I think it's heading in the direction that I think all of us would like in terms of coming out of a reform stage with AB 102 and trying to get stabilized. And I've been encouraged by the work of the whole team. I think Brenda Fleming has done a great job as our executive director, and we've got some real talented folks, and we've been hiring a lot of folks that have been in those vacant positions. And so thank you for your service. And I also want to congratulate Member Cohen as the new chair. and look forward to working with you in the year 2022. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Stowers.
Thank you. Yes, I too would like to thank you, Member Chair Vasquez, for your service as a chair. You're not going anywhere. You're going to continue to provide a very important role as a member of this board. So I know you will continue and have some very valuable input on what you see as the future direction of BOE. Member Schaefer, thank you for your willing to continue as the vice chair and your partnership with all of the members. Congratulations, Member Cohen, as being chair this time around, starting January 1st, 2022. And all of you guys have done a really excellent job as far as working together as a team, moving BOE forward. And I'm sure it will be the same in 2022 with the partnership that you have with your executive director, Brenda Fleming, and her team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I add just a comment?
Sure, go ahead, Member Gaines, go ahead.
I want to congratulate Member Schaefer as vice chair and look forward to working with him next year. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, Ms. Taylor, if you would call the next item.
The next item is J1, Administrative Consent Agenda, Approval of the Board Meeting Minutes. The minutes of November 16th and 18th, 2021 were attached to the public agenda notice for your consideration.
Members, are there any comments, questions, amendments to the minutes of November 16 and 18 of 2021? Seeing and hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve them.
I move approval of the minutes.
It's been moved by Ms. Stowers.
Second.
It's second by Member Cohen. Seeing no other hands or comments, Ms. Taylor, do we have any written comments on this?
We do not.
All righty. How about, can we check with AT&T in case there's somebody on the line?
Yes. AT&T moderator, can you let us know if there is anyone who wants to make a public comment on this matter?
Sure, if you wish to make a public comment, you may press 1 then 0 at this time. And at this time, there's no one in queue.
Thank you. With that, Ms. Taylor, if you'd please call the roll on the motion.
The motion is to adopt the minutes as presented. Chairman Vasquez?
Excuse me, aye.
Vice Chair Schaefer? Oh, Vice Chair Schaefer, you're muted.
You're muted, Mr. Vice Chair.
I'm having trouble unmuting. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Member Gaines?
Aye.
Member Cohen?
Aye.
Deputy Controller Stowers?
Aye.
So that's unanimous of all those present. With that, Ms. Taylor, if you call the next item.
The next item is J2, Approval of Assessor's Handbook Section 531 for 2022. Request the approval for publication of the 2022 revision of the Assessor's Handbook Section 531, Residential Building Costs.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. I have one quick procedural question for Mr. Young. Is Mr. Young available?
Good afternoon, Chair Vasquez and honorable members of the board. I am available.
How you doing?
Doing great.
All right. On the revisions to these 3 assessors handbooks, always on consent because they merely update the current cost increases. Have the board conducted a more thorough review of these in the past several years do you know of your knowledge of this?
Yes, thank you for the question, Chair Vasquez. As far as I've checked back, they've always been on the consent agenda. And as a matter of course, when we update these annually, we do a fair amount of research on each one. We gather both primary data, direct sales data. We look at published data, some we subscribe to and some that are just published off the internet. And we also talk to industry experts. So we do a fairly comprehensive search before we update these, and we have usually presented them to you on the consent calendar. But that being said, we are always looking for ways to improve our processes and to relook and to do a second look at how we come up with the figures. So I believe we do a pretty good job, but there's always room for improvement, sir.
Thank you. Members, do we have any questions or comments for Mr. Young? Seeing no hands or comments. Ms. Taylor, do we have any written comments on this?
Chairman Vasquez, we do not have any written comments.
Can we check with AT&T real quick?
Certainly. AT&T moderator, can you let us know if there is anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment on this matter?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to make a public comment, you may press 1 and 0 at this time. And we have no one in queue.
Thank you. With that, members, do I hear a motion to approve the publication of the 2022 revision of Assessor's Handbook, Section 531, Residential Building Cost?
So move.
It's been moved by our Vice Chair.
Seconded.
And second by Member Gaines. With that, Ms. Taylor, if you would please call the roll on the motion.
The motion on the floor is to approve the publication of the 2022 revision of Assessor's Handbook by Section 531, Residential Building Costs. Chairman Vasquez?
Aye.
Vice Chair Schaefer?
Aye.
Member Gaines?
Aye.
Member Cohen?
Aye.
Deputy Controller Stowers?
Aye.
So that's unanimous of all those present. With that, Ms. Taylor, will you please call our next item?
The next item is J3, approval of Assessor's Handbook Section 534 for 2022. Request approval for publication of the 2022 revision of the Assessor's Handbook Section 534, Rural Building Costs.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Members, do we have any questions or comments on this item? Seeing and hearing none. Ms. Taylor, do we have any written comments on this item?
We do not have any written comments.
Can we check with AT&T if anybody's on the line?
Certainly. AT&T moderator, can you let us know if there is anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment regarding this matter?
If you would like to make a public comment, you may press 1 and 0. And at this time, there's no one in queue.
Thank you. Member Gaines, is that a hand on this item? Yes, go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, could I just ask a question of David Young in terms of when we're going through these handbook updates, isn't this something that's in a sense routine that we do on an annual basis and just update?
Thank you, Board Member Gaines, for that question. Yeah, it is fairly routine in the sense that we do it annually. We do it every single year. But with each one of these updates, there is a fair amount of staff work and due diligence that goes into it before we come up with the numbers. And as I mentioned before, with my earlier remarks on the 531, it's very much the same for this one. We use both primary data and secondary data, published data, and we actually consult with some industry experts. So it is in the sense that it is an annual update that is fairly routine, but the amount of work and due diligence that goes into it is pretty extensive. It takes staff several months of dedicated work in order to do this work, sir.
Okay, and these sections of the handbook, because we already voted on 531, but this is 534, and we're going to take a look at 581. These are critical aspects of the handbook that are reviewed on an annual basis and updated.
They are reviewed on an annual basis. They are updated. The assessors use it as part of their valuation when they look at this type of property. It's used for the cost approach for residential property. This one is for rural properties, and the forthcoming one will be the business personal property. So it is reviewed and looked at pretty carefully every year.
That's great. Thank you.
Of course, anytime.
Vice Chair Schaefer?
Yes, go ahead, Vice Chair Schaefer.
Mr. Young, you brief us on all four of these, or at least the handbook issues, all at the same time. Could these not be framed as something we would adopt as one motion instead of four?
Thank you, Board Member Schaefer. It is at the board's pleasure as to how you wish to adopt it. I have no objections to it being one way or another, sir.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing no others, Ms. Taylor, do we have any written comments on this?
We do not have any written comments.
Can we check with AT&T?
AT&T moderator, can you let us know if there is anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment on this matter?
We already done.
If you would like to make a public comment, you may press 1 and 0.
I got sick and tired of it.
Vice Chair Schaefer, there you go.
And at this time, there's no one in queue.
With that, members, do I hear a motion to approve the publication of 2022 revision of Assessor's Handbook, Section 534, the rural building cost?
I would so move.
It's been moved by Vice Chair Schaefer.
Second.
And second by Member Gaines. Ms. Taylor, have you called the roll on that?
Yes, the motion on the floor is to approve the revision of the Assessor's Handbook 534, rural building costs. Chairman Vasquez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schaefer,
Aye.
Member Gaines,
Aye.
Member Cohen,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Stowers.
Aye.
So that's unanimous of all those present. With that, Ms. Taylor, we call the next item.
The next item is J4, approval of Assessor's Handbook Section 581 for 2022. Request approval for publication of the 2022 revision of Assessor's Handbook Section 581, Equipment and Fixtures Index, percent good and valuation factors.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. With that, members, are there any questions or comments on this Assessor's Handbook?
none.
Vice Chair Schaefer, go ahead.
I would move adoption of approval of this.
Vice Chair is moving adoption.
Yeah.
Ms. Taylor, do we have any written comments on this?
We do not have any written comments.
And just to formalize that, I'll second that motion. But let me ask and see if we can check with AT&T if anybody's on the line.
Certainly. AT&T moderator, can you please let us know if there is anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment?
If you would like to make a public comment, please press 1 and 0 at this time. And at this time, there's no one in queue.
Thank you. So just to be clear, Vice Chair Schaefer is moving the approval of the publication of 2022 revision of the Assessor's Handbook, Section 581, Equipment and Fixtures Index, percent good and valuation factors. And I second that. And with that, if we can have Ms. Taylor call the roll.
Chairman Vasquez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schaefer,
Aye.
Member Gaines,
Aye.
Member Cohen, Deputy Controller Stowers.
Aye.
So that's unanimous. Even though I don't think we heard Member Cohen, but I saw your lips move though.
Oh, I said aye.
Okay. Thank you. With that, it's unanimous.
I heard her.
Ms. Taylor, if you would please call the next item.
The next item is K1A, Executive Director's Report, Operational Priorities. Report on the status of pending and upcoming operational priorities. This matter will be presented by Ms. Fleming.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Good afternoon, Chairman Vasquez and honorable members. I'm Brenda Fleming, the Executive Director. Let me begin, members, by congratulating our new officers of the State Board of Equalization for 2022. Board Member Cohen, congratulations as Chair of the Board, and Vice Chair Schaefer as our Vice Chair for the 2022 term. I'd like to also take this moment to extend my sincere appreciation for the opportunity to work with current Chair Vasquez as our chair for the 2021 calendar year and with Vice Chair Schaefer for 2021. It's been an honor to work with the existing and then the incoming officers. Thank you for your support and for your leadership. Greatly, greatly appreciated. Members, just a quick update. As you know, we currently under current statute through the end of January can continue with our remote hearings, continuing them with the video and the teleconferencing, just as we've been doing. As you know, we're seeing some numbers recently with the COVID activities sort of increasing and ebbing and flowing here. As a result, we'll continue to monitor the public health guidance and see if there will be any potential changes to the legislation. And of course, members, as we get into January after the first of the year, we should have more information and we can advise you appropriately. There's no questions, members. I would like to take this opportunity just to applaud some of the work that we've accomplished in 2021. As I reflect back on the 2021 calendar year, first, again, I'm so grateful and thankful and appreciative for your leadership and your support moving the BOE as an agency forward. I'm grateful, very, very grateful and honored to work with a team of extraordinary tax professionals, the employees of the State Board of Equalization. Their expertise and dedication to the successful administration of our programs continues to impress me every single day. Staff members, as you know, have been reporting their progress and work activities throughout the year. And today, I'm going to take the opportunity, if you bear with me, to highlight just some of the 2021 accomplishments to date. Despite, members, the COVID pandemic and the ups and downs that we've experienced there, we have ensured the continuity of our government functions and responsibilities. And in addition to that, we've accomplished some significant milestones. Since the passage of Proposition 19, for example, we immediately engaged, as you know, with your participation in the implementation of Proposition 19. And as you know, again, from our monthly reporting, it's been an extensive undertaking, and it has involved the work of staff from all areas of the agency, including the members in your offices and your staff. Activities have included just a quick list, developing and issuing guidance and a range of informational material. Again, LTAs, legal memos, FAQs, information sheets, web updates, etc. We've worked on developing legislation in the form of Senate Bill 539. As you know, we've done rulemaking and rule changes. We've moved forward with new forms. We've had a host of public policy hearings and responded to a large number of public inquiries. In addition to Prop 19, some of the other accomplishments include we've initiated our business processes improvement projects, which will result in a range of improved processes and greater efficiencies. We've hosted the annual meeting of the State Board of Equalization with the assessors for 2021. We held that in October. We've successfully held our required monthly meetings via video and teleconference, and just for note, members, 120 hours of actual online meetings, which has resulted in significant increase in public engagement and participation. Additionally, we've had many public hearings, which resulted in focused discussions and actions on many important topics like AAB, which we're still in the process of. So thank you for that. As a thanks to board proceedings, if I can pause and shout out to board proceedings and our media services team, thank them and acknowledge them for they've successfully facilitated 21 public meetings, managing the range of services needed for the remote and the video and teleconference activities and technology. So that's been quite a feat, and they've done it seamlessly. In 2021, there were a significant number of recruitments and hires, resulting in 26 new employees and 20 promotions. Outstanding. Our telework policies and practices were successfully executed with minimal to little impact on our operational objectives. We're grateful that we've had very few incidents of employees testing positive. That's good news. Little highlights from the State Assessed Properties Division. State Assessed Properties team has produced and adopted the 2021 board roll of state assessed properties with a total assessed value, members, of over $123 billion, and transmitted these values to the 58 county auditors, representing $1.99 billion in property tax revenue for schools and local governments. State Assessed team has produced and adopted and billed the 2021 private railroad car tax roll for a total amount of over $9.3 million that will go into the state's general fund. They successfully completed 28 state assessed property appeals, completed 9 property tax audits, and physically inspected and valued over 7,700 state assessed land parcels. They processed 247 statements of land changes and coordinated the corresponding assessment jurisdiction for each change within the 58 county assessors. They processed over 200 jurisdictional boundary changes, resulting in over $350,000 in revenue for the state's general fund. We produced the 2021 valid tax rate area list with 61,183 tax rate areas. For the first time, members, our tax area services section, affectionately referred to as TAS, made tax rate area data for 34 of the 58 counties and online mapping publicly accessible by placing the information on our BOE website. We continue to make strides with our transparency of information on the website. We responded to approximately 1,800 phone and email inquiries on various issues related to state assessed properties. Kudos to that team, members. And our county assessed properties division, that team published 7 county surveys and samplings and issued 56 letters to assessors and 25 county assessors only letters. Responded to over 13,000 property tax inquiries from stakeholders. Just a little nuggets there. Over 8,800 phone calls, over 2,600 web inquiries, 42 letters, and over 1,500 faxes. 160 permanent and advanced appraiser certifications and 15 permanent and advanced assessment analyst certifications were issued. Additionally, in 2021, we provided training to 548 students in 17 virtual courses, 183 students in classes provided through American River College and Sacramento State University, and 634 students via graded self-study sessions. This team issued 540 organizational clearance certificates and 228 supplemental clearance certificates. We discovered and reported 398 changes in control and 169 changes in ownership to county assessors. And for reference, Assessor's Handbook sections 531, 534, and 581 were just recently adopted. Thank you, members. In our communications area, we expanded our communication program and social media platforms, which has resulted, members, in significantly enhanced communications, transparency, and greater outreach to the citizens of our state. We are projected to have over 70 social media and web posts on all our channels by the end of this year, and featured disaster relief, notice of upcoming board meetings, Proposition 19 information, etc. Our BOE website, as you know, was modernized, which has increased the value of our public website as a resource for statewide property tax programs, and we continue to make strides there. We generated and updated several new publications for stakeholders and taxpayers, including the publication 21G, which is entitled Introduction to the BOE. We created a new public service announcement, or PSA, promoting the 2021 Taxpayer Bill of Rights hearing. In our LEDGE Research and Statistics Division, members, we sponsored Senate Bill 825, which was signed into law, congratulations, which among other things helps protect open space lands for all Californians by extending the property tax welfare exemption for land conservancies and land trusts. Additionally, Senate Bill 539, the Proposition 19 implementation bill, was signed into law with the BOE and other stakeholders playing key leadership roles in developing the legislation. We tracked 46 Assembly and Senate bills in 2021 and issued 8 bill analysis. And we published the 2020-2021 annual report. Some updates on our Equal Employment Opportunity Office, affectionately EEO. As part of the EEO office's focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, an inclusion statement has been added to the BOE's CalCareers job postings. We established the BOE's Disability Advisory Committee in July 2021. We adopted an agency-wide training calendar for all mandatory training to ensure consistent compliance. We've enhanced BOE's employee onboarding processes and procedures, and kudos to the EEO office. Members, our Taxpayer Rights Advocates Office completed approximately 200 taxpayer cases, providing responses and resolving taxpayer issues. We published the Taxpayer Rights Advocates Fiscal Year 2019-2020 annual report in February of 2021. We, of course, held the 2021 Taxpayers Bill of Rights hearing in August of this year, allowing taxpayers the opportunity to speak before the elected board. In collaboration with the communications officer, we developed a simple fact sheet providing basic information on Prop 19, and there is more to come in that area. We transitioned to a case management system for more efficient tracking and management of taxpayer cases. This aligns, as you know, with our strategic plan to modernize and leverage technology. In our legal department, they issued 10 legal opinions on novel and complex property tax issues facing the 58 counties, responded to over 180 legal inquiries by providing resources and analysis to county assessment appeals boards, county assessors, and the public. We submitted 5 rulemaking packages to the Office of Administrative Law, including 2 Prop 19 implementation packages. And we received 1 published Presidential Court of Appeal decision, Verizon California Inc. versus Board of Equalization, and had 8 additional cases against the BOE dismissed. Members, this review of the 2021 accomplishments to date highlights the more significant work accomplished, but by no means does it represent the full array of work that staff have achieved. Again, I just want to ask you to join me in applauding and commending our staff for the extraordinary efforts and their dedication to this agency. If I may, just a few more comments. Just want to take a brief moment. Thank you. Applause, applause, applause. Kudos to the team. Thank you, thank you. just a few moments. You get to the end of the year and you want to reflect back. And I reflect back to where we were in 2017. We've had some significant accomplishments in addition to this last year. Each year that passes, members, we are leveraging the lessons learned and build upon our achievements from those lessons learned to continue to fuel our continued success. Members, we will continue to modernize. We will continue to rebuild, and we will revitalize and rebuild and modernize over and over and over again so that our agency remains a highly valued and effective state agency serving all Californians. We won't give up. We will persist. We will not fail to succeed. I'd like to extend my appreciation and thanks to the outgoing president, the Honorable Ernie Dronenberg, the legend, for his partnership in 2021. And as many of our accomplishments were achieved through this great collaboration with CAA, I thank all of the assessors. Moving into the new year, I'm looking forward to working with the Honorable Leslie Morgan, the president-elect, for 2022. Finally, members, I would be remiss if I didn't give you a high five, an applause, and a shout out. For your leadership has been invaluable. Your partnership and support of me and the agency have been extraordinary and greatly appreciated. Thank you for continuing with me in this modernization journey and helping to ensure that our taxpayers and stakeholders are aware of who we are and how our value is important to state and local governments. We've accomplished a lot in 2021, but there is so much more to be done. So I hope you guys have a great holiday season because we're going to need you to recharge your batteries and be ready to go when we come back in 2022. I look forward to working with you in 2022 and continuing to achieve our objectives and just being amazing and successful. Members, if there's no questions, I thank you again and now give the opportunity for Ms. Renati to give updates on the operational priorities. Thank you, members, and thank you to the staff.
Thank you, Ms. Fleming, and that is very tough to come afterwards. Thank you.
Well, I think you can do it.
Good afternoon, Chairman Vasquez and honorable members. I am Lisa Renati, Chief Deputy Director. Today, I'll report on some of the agency's operational priorities and projects. The first item is in regards to our workforce capacity. Since our last meeting, we have filled 4 positions, including 1 promotion at the managerial level and 3 staff who are new to the BOE. Currently, 75% of the agency's remaining vacancies are in active recruitment. Members, during last month's meeting, Member Cohen inquired about the possible cost savings as we transitioned our in-person training programs for county assessor staff to a virtual format during the COVID-19 pandemic. Overall, we know that the travel and related costs for BOE staff decreased during the last year due to the travel restrictions because of COVID and the pandemic. But at the same time, during the past year, we redirected additional staffing to our training department to augment the services we provide. So at this time, our system isn't currently set up to provide the specific detailed information related to particular activities or functions. And to get the data, we need to do a deep dive, which we are working on. And I need a little bit more time to answer your question, Ms. Cohen. One of our modernization efforts is to improve our system to provide a better accounting of activities and projects. So hopefully in the future, that information will be readily available for us to make better decisions and also have the information as needed. The next item is an update on our process improvement project. Currently, managers are performing process reviews on some key operational processes to identify areas and opportunities for improvement. Staff are currently prioritizing projects, and this work aligns with our strategic goals to modernize the property tax system. I'm happy to report the project's going well and no issues to report. This concludes my report on operational priorities. I am available to answer any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions of Mr. Renati? I don't see any hands. Yeah, Ms. Taylor, I forgot to ask on the when Ms. Fleming finished up her comments. We didn't have any written comments on this, did we?
We did not have any written comments, sir.
Do we need to check with AT&T now or wait until we finish with K1?
I think if, as long as you state it, we could wait until we finish with K1.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Renati.
The next item is the status of our Proposition 19 implementation project. I'm happy to report there are no issues or concerns to report. As mentioned by Chief Counsel Henry Nanjo, rule changes related to Prop 19 have either been approved or will soon be approved by the Office of Administrative Law. Staff continues to provide assistance to taxpayers with any information they need or questions they may have. And so far, everything's going well on our Proposition 19 implementation project. And that concludes my presentation on this subject.
Ms. Renati, you know, on this item, I was wondering if you'd be able to come back to us, I'm thinking next month, just with kind of a presentation on the legislative and initiative update on Prop 19, because I know there's several movements afoot, and we probably won't know too much until the beginning of next year. And I was just wondering, I guess the taxpayers are asking about the proposed legislation and ballot initiatives that are intended to fix some of the big problems. And I'd like to be able to respond and provide as much information as possible. I understand that the ballot initiative called the repeal of the Death Tax Act.
Excuse me, Chairman. This is Ms. Taylor. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we have a difficulty with our live stream at this moment. So I hate to have you launch into that.
Okay.
We're working on it right now. So
I know with the storm out there, I wonder if it's affecting it, huh?
Perhaps we could take just a short recess, 5 minutes, to resolve this technical issue.
All right, why don't we take
That would be helpful.
Is 5 minutes sufficient?
At this point, I hope so.
Okay.
So this is Brenda Fleming, Executive Director. Let me make a suggestion that we take a quick 10-minute break just to make sure that it's not just refreshed but stabilized. So Chairman and members, if you would give us 10 minutes, that would be appreciated.
All right, I have 1:50 and I have like 2 o'clock. So let's say 2:10 then.
2:10 is perfect. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you, members.
Mute.
Mute and
mics.
cameras off, please. Thank you.
Cameras.
Thanks.
Okay.
So
Let's see,
Chairman
we-
Vasquez, we're just waiting for, there is, Member Gaines is back. All set to go.
Yes. Continue, please.
Ms. Chairman Vasquez, I think you were asking a question.
Yes. I was referring it to the, I guess coming up, you know, as we're hearing, excuse me, and we're seeing so much movement, both from the legislative side and then also from outside groups, specifically the Harvest Jarvis group that looks like it's putting together some kind of a signature gathering that they're calling the Repeal of the Death Tax Act. So I was wondering if it was possible, hopefully by next month, when we meet again, maybe next year, that we hopefully have the latest and the greatest information on what is all out there, and possibly if there's anything we could do, one, for informational purposes, because I know many of us are getting approached by groups as we're going out and about ourselves and asking about Prop 19. One, possible amendments, and then two, some are going as far as, you know, is there an opportunity or a chance to repeal this thing?
Thank you for the question, Chairman. I'll let Dustin Weatherby, our Chief of Legislative Research and Statistics Division, answer that question for you. And
Okay.
any information that he could provide regarding Prop 19, we can have him add that to his report next month.
Sounds good. Members, are there any other questions or comments for Ms. Renati so far? Seeing no hands. Thank you, Ms. Renati. Well, we're going to wait until the end of K1. I think we're still going, right? We have K as a K3A now?
Yes, the next item would be K3A. So perhaps this might be a good opportunity to take public comment and then move on to the next item.
All righty. Is there any written comment, Ms. Taylor?
We have no written comments for the K1 items.
Let's go ahead and check with AT&T and see if there's anybody on the line.
AT&T moderator, can you let us know if there's anyone who would like to make a public comment on this matter?
Presently, there is no one in queue. To queue up, it's 1 followed by 0. 1 and then 0. And still no one in queue.
Thank you. Ms. Taylor, if you would please call the next item.
The next item is K3A, Property Tax Deputy Director's Report, Operational Updates. Report on the status of pending and upcoming projects, activities, and departmental issues. This item will be presented by Mr. Young.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Taylor. Good afternoon, Chair Vasquez and honorable members of the board. David Young, Deputy Director of the Property Tax Department here to provide an update on our operations. So first of all, I will give a brief report on the department as a whole, and then I will go ahead and turn it back to Ms. Taylor, and she will introduce the next 5 report to give you a little bit more detail. But before I do that, I also would like to take this opportunity to recognize and to commend the staff of the Property Tax Department on all their hard work and efforts for this year. So I recognize and appreciate all the tough work that staff has performed over the years. So thank you and thank you. With that, I will start with our updates. So first of all, we continue on our rebuilding efforts. We are hiring and continuing to build our workforce capacity. So we are making great strides in that. But with each hire, I know it is a process, a disruption in work from the whole management team in order to do so, to interview, to hire, and then once we get the new person on board, to also onboard them, orientate them, and to train them. So with that, I know it is an investment in our future, and it takes a lot of work. Also, we are continuing our business process review. We are taking a look at each one of our work processes. We are documenting how it is being done, and we are looking for efficiencies and improvements that we could make. There will be a report more specific on that by Ms. Keach later on in this presentation. With that, CAPD, our County Assessed Properties Division, right now, much of our work is concentrated on the implementation of Prop 19. With the passage of SB 539, we continue our work of reviewing our guidance, our annotation. We are looking at our website, what is being posted, whether that still comports to and needs improvements or updating on SB 539, and we are developing some guidance on it also in the form of an LTA. With our SAPD, our State Assessed Properties Division, as you have already concluded our assessment appeals hearings for this month, that concludes our seasonal work for SAPD. But with each completion of this work, we prepare anew for next season's work. So right now, staff has shifted and is preparing for next year's 2022's appraisal season. And Mr. McCool will be able to give you a little bit more detail on that also. So this basically concludes my portion of the updates for the Property Tax Department operations. I'm available to answer any questions you may have, and if not, I will turn it back over to Ms. Taylor.
Thank you. Actually, I had a quick question, but if I heard you correctly, it sounds like you're already working on this, preparing an LTA basically to deal with SB 539. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. We are 539. What we have done is we've actually bifurcated the issue. 539 covers both the intergenerational and the base year transfers provision of Prop 19. We have developed an LTA that addresses the base year transfers. It is currently under internal review, and I am planning on issuing that in the very near future. And of course, before it will be issued, it will be presented to your offices for a preview.
Thank you.
Of course.
Seeing no other hands or comments, then Ms. Taylor.
Our next speaker on the subject of letters to assessors will be Ms. Lumsden.
Good afternoon, Chairman Vasquez and honorable board members. This is Patty Lumsden, and I'm the chief of the County Assessed Properties Division. Today, I will provide you with a brief report on letters to assessors. Attached to the agenda this month is a memo on letters to assessors. This memo provides a list of the LTAs that have been issued since our last board meeting and provides a link to the BOE's website where a list of all LTAs issued to date can be found. So far to date, calendar year 2021, BOE staff have issued a total of 56 LTAs, and 8 of those LTAs have been issued since our last board meeting. And they consist of an LTA which provides notice to interested parties that modifications were made to the original text of proposed Rule 462.540, change in ownership, base year value transfers, and additional documents and information were added to the rulemaking file. The next LTA provides the 2022 calendar for the valuation of public utilities and railroads. The next LTA provides a summary of the 2021 legislation affecting property taxes. The next LTA provides information and guidance on assessment and exemption of community land housing, community land trust housing. And the next LTAs provides amendments to Revenue and Taxation Code Section 408B2, which added the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration to the list of governmental agencies that may have access to assessors' records. The next LTA, which after following a public hearing, announced the board's adoption of Property Tax Rule 462.520, exclusion from change in ownership, intergenerational transfers. The new rule was approved by the Office of Administrative Law and becomes effective on January 1, 2022. The next LTA provides the approved schedule of timberland production zone values for the January 1, 2022 lien date as certified by the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. And finally, the last LTA provides amendments to Government Code Section 65852.26 as it relates to the separate conveyance of accessory dwelling units. And this concludes my report on letters to assessors, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Seeing no hands or comments, I just had one quick one, and
Sure.
it refers one more towards the LTA, I guess the number 2021/56, informing assessors of their staff of a new law that allows ADUs, both attached and detached, to be sold as complete independent dwellings under certain circumstances. How's that going?
I'm not sure in what context you're referring to by when you ask how that's going.
Well, it's my understanding that I guess depending on the situation, folks could actually sell these as complete units, these ADUs. Is that correct?
I believe so, that the law does allow for them to do that. What letters to assessors number 2021-056, what it does is it provides the amendments that were brought up by Assembly Bill 345 and that affect Government Code Section 5852.26. And Assembly Bill 345, what it does is it amends that Government Code section to remove the local agency ordinance option and instead requires local agencies to allow an accessory dwelling unit to be sold or conveyed separately from the primary residence to a qualified buyer if they meet that certain criteria.
Do we have any way of following up on that to see how many of the assessors, or I guess basically property owners, are possibly taking advantage of this?
At this time, there is nothing requiring the assessor to report information to our office, and there's nothing requiring the BOE to collect this data, but there's not to say that we couldn't do something like that in the future if that's found to be something that would be useful.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly.
Seeing no other hands or comments, you can continue, Ms. Lumpson.
Well, thank you. I will return it back to Ms. Kathy Taylor.
Okay.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ms. Lumsden on the topic of appraisal training and certification.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. I will now provide a brief report on the BOE's appraisal training and certification. Since our last meeting, we have taught one more virtual class of our most requested courses. And to date, during calendar year 2021, we have taught a total of 17 virtual classes and trained a total of 548 students. And that will conclude my report on training and certification. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. I'm seeing no hands or comments. I guess you can continue something. I believe you have the third item too, not the third sub.
Yes, I'll return it back to you, Ms. Taylor.
Yes, Ms. Lumsden has the third sub-item, assessment practices surveys.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. So I'll give my final report on the BOE's assessment practices surveys. So far to date for calendar year 2021, we have completed and issued assessment practices survey reports for 7 counties. Those counties are San Diego County in District 4, Alpine County in District 1, Yuba County in District 1, Orange County in District 4, Lassen County in District 1, Calaveras County in District 1, Nevada County in District 1. These survey reports were issued via letters to assessors and are posted on our website. In addition, we are actively working on completing surveys and/or samples for 12 other counties. 7 of those are in District 1, 4 in District 2, and 1 in District 3. These surveys and/or samples are in various stages of completion, and once the survey and/or samples are completed, a copy of the report is provided to each of the board members in their office for preview. Staff continue to conduct surveys and samples remotely. In doing so, we work closely with each assessor and their staff to determine the best way to collect the necessary information and data in the least impactful way to the county as possible. This concludes my report on assessment practices surveys, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Vice Chair Schaefer has his hand up, and Member Gaines after.
Ms. Lumsden, I didn't hear about anything going on in District 4. Are we too far away, or did we just didn't have any problems?
Oh, currently, I don't believe that we are doing any surveys or samples in District 4 at this time. Let's see here.
Maybe everything is perfect down here.
No, we just don't happen to be on that cycle yet. They may be a couple of coming up, but right now we have already issued in your district survey reports that are completed for San Diego County and Orange County, and those are already completed.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Member Gaines.
Yeah, just a question of clarification. So we do these surveys for counties, and that information is given to the assessor, and then it's also forwarded to the Board of Supervisors in each of those counties. And do we make those publicly available in any other capacity?
Yes, so each of those reports, once it has been completed and reviewed, it is issued in a letter to assessors, and it is published and posted on our website for public viewing.
Okay, so if you you highlighted some particular issues for a county assessor's office, that would be sent to the Board of Supervisors, and they could take corrective action, or the assessor could too. You know, it's pretty common that assessors are looking for additional staff or additional funding for upgrading equipment and things of that nature. So our role as members of the BOE is just to alert the assessor and the Board of Supervisors, and then of course the public can take a look at those surveys also. But it kind of stops there. Is that correct?
So what we do is when we do these compliance audits, that's what they are, they're compliance audits, and we look at the policies and procedures and looking to see if properties are being valued or processed properly in accordance with statutory regulatory provisions. And those are the things that we point out in our report. And then the assessor has the opportunity. We actually meet with the assessors ahead of time before after we are done with our report. We go over the issues that will be brought up, and then we complete the survey report based upon that conference that we have with them. And then once they see what we call a post-conference draft, then they're able to provide responses to each one of the recommendations that we are going to be putting in the report, and that is attached to the report as well. Okay. And most assessors and their staff are very open and compliant to the recommendations, and so they want to comply with the things that we bring up, and we like to work together with them in order to not only provide these recommendations, but also as a teaching opportunity for other items that come up, or things that they bring to our attention, or they may ask questions of us while we're in their county of different procedures and processes.
Okay, that's great. So, it's possible we could do a survey of a county, and we could highlight issues that need to be resolved. They're not resolved by the assessor. They're not addressed by the County Board of Supervisors. It becomes controversial in nature and ends up on the front page of the local newspapers in that county. And if folks are coming to look at the BOE and what they did, we've satisfied our constitutional duty in terms of doing the survey.
Yes, that would be the purpose of our survey, is to make sure that the county assessors and their staff are following policies, procedures, and statutory and regulatory guidelines. So,
Right.
so that would be, yeah, there are certain things. Go ahead.
We don't have the authority to make a county assessor accept any of the recommendations, right? So we're simply advisory. We highlight it, we make it public, and that's where our duties end. Is that
Yes.
correct?
I would have to say probably yes, and in the sense that, however, we do, when we go back to the county assessor's office, to do the following survey, because we survey each of the counties approximately every 5 years. Then we look to see if any of those items have been resolved, and if they haven't, then we will make another recommendation in that capacity. So, but as far as being able to, we don't have authority to, have them comply with, whatever our recommendations are.
Sure.
We can make the recommendations, and then hope that they will put them into place.
Yes. Okay. I just wanted to clarify that, so that I'm thinking correctly in terms of what we can do and what we can't do.
Certainly. Yeah. Most, like I said, most of the county assessors and staff are very compliant and very open to our recommendations, and willing to try to put those recommendations into place.
Yes, I absolutely.
Yeah, it's a very good collaborative,
Sure.
Very well. Experience,
yes.
For both us and for the assessors. We work together with them very well.
Yeah, very well. That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I had just one quick question for you. What type of feedback are we receiving from the assessors now, since these surveys and audits have been conducted remotely for the past 2 years?
Yes. So when we first started doing these remotely, it was mostly because, we still have these surveys that we need to still do, and it's in statute that requires us to do these surveys and samples. And we came up with a plan to, do this remotely. So in the beginning, it was a little bit cumbersome for the assessors. It kind of required them to assist us a little bit more in trying to collect some of this information. But as time has gone on, we've been able to work not only with the assessors and their IT departments, as well as CDTFA's IT department, so that we have a better way of collecting the information and keeping it secure and confidential. And so that has actually helped a lot and has sped up the process. So we have found that it has slowed down the process a little bit, and it has, we kind of do enjoy that collaborative effort and the building those relationships with the staff members, the assessors and their staff on this process. So, we are looking forward to getting back out in person when we can, but it has been a good experiment in the sense that it's allowed us to collect this information remotely. So it's put that out there for us to see how we could maybe utilize that as part of, again, like a hybrid, where we could still collect maybe some of the information remotely and impact the assessors and their staff less than what we've had to in the past. And so just by being in their office is what I mean by impactful. So, by us not having to be in their office maybe as long or as much, if we could get some of the data remotely continuing forward, that would be great. But I think there will be probably like a hybrid of that, where we do find it's very beneficial to still have that communication and that one-on-one with staff. So moving forward, we hope to make that possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no other hands or comments, Ms. Taylor, if you would call I guess we're on the 4th sub-item.
Yes. Our next speaker is Mr. McCool, who will report on state assessed property.
Good afternoon, Chairman Vasquez and honorable members. My name is Jack McCool, Chief of the State Assessed Properties Division. Today I will provide information on the status of ongoing work in our division. Staff continue to work on finalizing the property statement forms in preparation for the 2022 appraisal season. Staff are busy compiling the hard copy versions of the forms by industry, and are preparing the mailing of the forms to each state assessee with the target date being the last week of December. Staff are also working with CDTFA Forms and Publications Unit on the remaining electronic fillable and ADA compliant forms, which will be placed on our website. As a reminder, the annual property statement forms are due on March 1st of each year. Staff are continuing to work on property tax audits. COVID-19 and office and telework restrictions remain in place for most of our state assessees, and SAPD staff have been flexible in working with assessees on obtaining the documentation necessary to conduct the audits. All of this year's audits have been completed and are now going through the review process. Any audits that result in a change in value recommendation will be brought before the board in early 2020 for the board's consideration. I am happy to report that our work on state assessed appeals for the 2021 year is now complete. Today's agenda included the final 8 petitions in this year's workload. That brings this year's total of petitions resulting in board action to 28. I would like to thank our partners in the Board Proceedings Division for their hard work overseeing the petition process. I'd also like to thank our partners in the legal department for their tireless work and collaboration throughout this year's appeal season. And finally, honorable members, as we close out 2021, I would like to take a moment to thank all of the staff of the State Assessed Properties Division. I would like to thank each member of the SAPD team for their hard work and dedication throughout the year in service to the people of California, and to each member of the Tax Area Services section, Field Appraisal and Board Roll section, and the Unitary Evaluation and Auditing section. I thank you for all of your contributions and efforts this year. That concludes my report on the status of the State Assessed Properties Division for this month. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, do we have any questions or comments? Mr. McCool. Seeing no hands, or I think we're good. Ms. Taylor, can we introduce the next speaker?
Yes, our 5th sub-item, welfare exemption process improvement, will be presented by Ms. Keach.
Good afternoon, Chairman Vasquez and honorable members of the board. My name is Lauren Keach, and I am the manager of the welfare exemption section of the Property Tax Department. Today, I'll provide you with an update on the welfare exemption supplemental clearance certificate process improvement project. Our goal for the project is to streamline the SCC process for claimants seeking to exempt low-income housing from property taxation. We have identified opportunities for improvement and ways to increase efficiency when processing SCC claims. Since the last board meeting, staff continues the detailed work of reviewing each step and requirement in the welfare exemption process of granting an SCC. We have made progress in our examination of the application process. Staff analyzed and revised the checklist and claim form, which was submitted for internal review and has been approved since the last board meeting. The outcome of these revisions will make it less cumbersome for claimants to navigate the SCC claim form and make the form more user-friendly in order to accomplish our goal of providing a more clear and concise application process. Now that the internal review process is complete, we have moved on to phase 2 of the application process, which is the plan design phase to implement the revisions. As we move forward, we will continue to provide updates and information regarding our progress and improvements to allow for visibility into the process and to ensure the board members are kept informed. And members, this concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have 2 quick ones for you. One is, what specific procedures will you be trying to improve in this next phase?
So the next phase will be the claims process, and we will be specifically focusing on the SCC claims procedure. So we'll be doing a thorough internal review on our procedure and processing SCC claims, looking for areas of improvement and ways to increase efficiency on our end.
Great. And then on the, as you're talking about improvements, what are you considering in response to taxpayers' complaints over the years, or is or I guess maybe giving me an example of what you're looking at along those lines.
Absolutely. I would say one of the biggest complaints we've received from taxpayers over the year aligns directly with our goal for this project, which is the time frame it takes to process an SCC claim. So that's really what we're focusing on here with these 3 steps or these 3 processes we're looking at, and how we can increase efficiency and increase the time frame for processing the SCC claims.
Thank you. Members, if you're not speaking, please mute your mics. Okay, any other comments or questions from Ms. Keach? Seeing none, thank you again. And then Ms. Taylor.
All right, we'll go out and seek public comments. So AT&T moderator, can you let us know if there was anyone who would like to make a public comment on these matters?
Certainly. Ladies and gentlemen, to make a comment, please press 1 and then 0. 1 and then 0 on your touch tone phone. And presently we have no one in queue.
Thank you. And Ms. Taylor, I'm assuming we had no written comments as well, right?
You are correct.
Okay, with that, if you could please call the next item.
The next item is K4A, Legislative Research and Statistic Division Chief's Report, Agency's 2022 Legislative Proposals. The board will consider suggested proposals from the Legislative Research and Statistics Division for legislation to be sponsored by the Board of Equalization in the second year of the 2021-2022 legislative session. K4A1, 2022 legislative proposals, property tax, amend section 15620 of the government code. Amend to provide a 60-day extension in the case of public calamity for reports filed with the Board of Equalization. This matter will be presented by Mr. Weatherby.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Good afternoon, Chair Vasquez, Vice Chair Schaefer, and honorable members of the board. This is Dustin Weatherby, Chief of the Legislative Research and Statistics Division. So attached to the public agenda notice, I have provided the board with 3 legislative proposals and the respective analyses for consideration by the board for inclusion into the BOE's 2022 legislative package. For proposals approved by the board, I will begin the process of working with the legislature to secure authors and assist with moving the board-sponsored proposals through the legislative process. For each of the proposals I am presenting today, I will summarize the proposed legislation, provide background and history on why the proposal is necessary, and state any fiscal effects the proposed change would have. Each of these proposals will be discussed and presented separately. So the first legislative proposal for your consideration is amending Government Code Section 15620 to authorize the State Board of Equalization to extend deadlines for reports that must be filed with the board by up to 60 days in the event of a public calamity. This proposal comes from the hard work done by the board, agency staff, and interested parties in relation to deadline extensions related to the COVID-19 pandemic. This proposal was discussed by agency staff and various stakeholders in an interested parties process in early November. During that IP process, no individual stakeholders raised any concerns with the language that is being presented to the board today. So during the COVID-19 pandemic and the related restrictions from the governor's stay-at-home orders, the ability of assessors, assessment appeals boards, and taxpayers to meet certain property tax deadlines was a primary concern. Based on existing laws, the board was limited in the relief it could provide. Accordingly, the board and its stakeholders were dependent on the governor issuing executive orders to grant relief. Current property tax laws provide the board the authority to extend certain deadlines, but limits who may be granted an extension and the amount of time granted. This authorization includes Government Code Section 15620, where the board can extend deadlines by up to 30 days, but makes no provision for extra time in the case of a public calamity. This proposal will provide the board the flexibility to grant a 60-day extension to report filers in the rare instances of a public calamity. Without a public calamity deadline extension, the board would be reliant upon future governors to issue executive orders that would authorize the board to extend these deadlines. This proposal would result in only minor absorbable costs to agency staff to update any publications that are necessary. This will conclude my presentation on this legislative proposal, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. I see a hand from Vice Chair Schaefer. Go ahead.
Mr. Weatherby, you said you want to take each one of these proposals separately. Does that mean we can't vote on them as a group, or is there some reason you want to have 3 separate votes?
Thank you, Vice Chair Schaefer. So for each of the proposals, they're each an individual legislative proposal. So the board would need to vote on each one of those items separately and not on a package as a whole.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions for any of the members? Seeing and hearing none. Ms. Taylor, we don't have any written comments on this, do we?
We do not have any written comments.
Can we check with AT&T before we move forward?
Yes. AT&T moderator, can you let us know if there is anyone who would like to make a public comment on this matter?
Certainly. Presently, we have no comments.
Okay, so then I understand we need to make separate motions for each one. Is that correct, Mr. Weatherby?
That's to my understanding, yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so let me start, I guess, with the first one. I'll make a motion to approve this proposal as presented. I believe the board will use the extra 30 days only in the most serious circumstances or obvious hardship or disaster. Is that correct?
That would be correct. It would be in the instance of a public calamity.
Okay.
30.
Vice Chair Schaefer, you got your hand up.
I heard the chair, you mentioned 30 days. What I'm reading here is to provide a 60-day extension. I'm a little confused.
So
my understanding was 30, but is it more, Mr. Weatherby?
So the board currently has authority to do a 30-day extension, but in the case of public calamity, the board can go up to 60 days. So it's like an additional 30-day extension on top of the board's current authority of 30 days.
Okay, I see. Thank you for clarification.
You're welcome, Vice Chair.
Okay, it's been moved. Do we have a second on this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
I second it.
All right, I see a second. I see two. I remember Cohen has got a second. See no other hands or comments on this. Ms. Taylor, we already checked with AT&T on this, correct?
Correct.
Why don't we go ahead and take a vote on this first one?
All right, the motion on the floor is to approve the proposal as presented. Chairman Vasquez.
Aye.
Vice Chair Schaefer.
Aye.
Member Gaines.
Aye.
Member Cohen. Member Cohen, I didn't quite hear you. Thank you. There seems to be something wrong with your microphone, but.
Your audio is a little off, okay. But
and Deputy Controller Stowers.
Aye.
Okay, so that's unanimous of all those present. So now we need a second motion for the legislative proposal tax amendment section. Is it 15620 of the government code? Is that correct, Mr. Weatherby?
That was our motion that was on the floor, Chairman Vasquez.
Oh, then which is the second one? You said you needed a separate.
So now we're going to present item K4A2.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
I see what's, okay.
All right. Our next item is K4A2, 2022 legislative proposals, property tax, amend section 97.68 of the Revenue and Taxation Code, amend to make a technical changes of reference of State Board of Equalization to California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. This matter will be presented by Mr. Weatherby.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Board members, the second legislative proposal for your consideration is a technical cleanup amendment to align the code section with current practice. This proposal would amend Revenue and Taxation Code section 97.68, which relates to the sales and use tax and the Educational Revenue Augmentation Fund. This code section requires a total amount of ad valorem property tax revenue otherwise required to be allocated to a county's Educational Revenue Augmentation Fund to be reduced by the countywide adjustment amount. The countywide adjustment amount is to be deposited into a sales and use tax compensation fund that is to be established in each county treasury. Section 97.68 specifically identifies the State Board of Equalization rather than a general reference to board. However, the responsibilities itemized under this section have been handled by the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration since July 1st, 2017. These amendments relate to the sales and use tax program, which the BOE no longer administers and does not impact any BOE related items. This proposal would follow current practice and provide a technical cleanup amendment to correctly reference the CDTFA in relation to the sales and use tax in this provision. This proposal will not have any fiscal impact on the agency. This will conclude my presentation on this legislative proposal, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Seeing no other hands, and I believe you clarified my question, because you mentioned right now that this procedure, I guess we're talking about, our operation that's currently performed, I guess, by the BOE or the CDTFA will be changed or will not be changed.
So the code section that's being amended by this proposal now applies to the CDTFA, whereas prior to July 1st, 2017, it was under the BOE's jurisdiction. So now it's just updating the code section to reflect current practice, but no other BOE related programs will be affected by it.
Got it. Thank you. And seeing no other hands or comments, Ms. Taylor, we don't have any written comments on this, do we?
We do not have any written comments.
Can we just check with AT&T before we move forward here?
Yes. AT&T moderator, can you let us know if there is anyone who would like to make a public comment on this matter?
Certainly, to make a comment, please press 1 and then 0. 1 and then 0. And we presently have no comments.
Thank you. With that, members, I would like to just move the staff's recommendation on this.
Being that the board sponsored to amend RT section 97.68, I make that motion.
Okay, it's been moved by Ms. Stowers, and I will go ahead and second that. Seeing no hands or comments, Ms. Taylor, if you'd call the roll.
Chairman Vasquez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schaefer,
Aye.
Member Gaines,
Aye.
Member Cohen,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Stowers.
Aye.
So that's unanimous of all those present. Thank you, Mr. Weatherby. And with that, Ms. Taylor, you move on to the next item.
The next item is K4A3, 2022 legislative proposals, alcoholic beverage tax, amend to section 32253 of the Revenue and Taxation Code. Amend to provide a 3-month deadline extension for reports or taxes due for the alcoholic beverage tax during a governor's declared state of emergency. This matter will be presented by Mr. Weatherby.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Board members, this proposal comes from board conversations around deadline extensions during the COVID-19 pandemic for tax programs the board administers. This proposal would amend section 32253 subdivision B2 of the Revenue and Taxation Code to expand the definition of disaster to include the infectious disease, which would authorize a 3-month deadline extension for the alcoholic beverage tax for situations similar to the COVID-19 pandemic. For background members, on March 4th, 2020, Governor Gavin Newsom signed a proclamation of a state of emergency to contain the spread of COVID-19. During this time, taxpayers were still liable to remit tax liabilities and file reports by specified deadlines. The board may extend deadlines for good cause by 1 month and up to 3 months in the case of a disaster. However, the board was not able to utilize these sections to extend deadlines and relieve interest for COVID-19 because the definition of disaster was interpreted as not including disasters such as the current COVID-19 pandemic. The current definition of disaster includes fires, flood, storm, tidal wave, earthquake, or similar public calamity, whether or not resulting from natural causes. This definition was interpreted to not include a situation like the COVID-19 pandemic. As a result, the BOE was reliant upon the governor issuing executive orders to extend deadlines and provide relief from interest. Without these executive orders, there would have not been the authority to extend alcoholic beverage tax deadlines or relieve interest from these deadline extensions during situations like the COVID-19 pandemic. If future pandemics were to occur, the BOE would be relying on future governors to also issue executive orders authorizing these deadline extensions. Additionally, taxpayers who receive a deadline extension pursuant to RTC section 32253 and pay the full tax within the period for which the extension is granted must also pay interest at a modified adjusted rate per month from the date the tax would have been due without the extension to the date of the payment. Interest relief may be provided if it's found that a taxpayer's failure to make a timely return or payment was due to a disaster. A taxpayer seeking interest relief must file a claim. For legislative background on this issue, the BOE sponsored AB 1559 in 2016 that authorized the BOE to extend for up to 3 months the time for a tax or fee payer to file a tax or return report or pay the tax in the case of a disaster across several tax and fee programs the BOE administered at the time, and additionally added the definition of disaster in RTC section 32253 in effect today to conform with BOE regulation 1730 in relation to the sales and use tax law. AB 1559 was signed into law, and this proposal would provide a narrow expansion to add infectious disease into the definition of disaster the board sponsored in 2016 for purposes of providing a 3-month deadline extension. This proposal would result in only minor fiscal impact from the delay in the state receiving tax revenue from the program and any related interest revenues that are waived from the deadline extension. This will conclude my presentation on this legislative proposal, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any comments or questions? Seeing and hearing none. Ms. Taylor, we don't have any written comments on this, do we?
We do not have any written comments.
Can we check with AT&T before we move forward here?
Certainly. AT&T moderator, can you let us know if there is anyone who would like to make a public comment on this matter?
Yes, please press 1 and then 0 for comments. 1 and then 0 for comments. And we have no one in queue. Back to you.
Thank you. With that, members, I will move the staff recommendation on this proposal to amend the alcohol beverage tax, amend section 32253 of the Revenue Taxation Code.
Second.
It's been second. Seeing no hands or comments, Ms. Taylor, if you'd call the roll.
Chairman Vasquez,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Schaefer,
Aye.
Member Gaines,
Aye.
Member Cohen,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Stowers.
Aye.
So that's unanimous of all those present. With that, Ms. Taylor moves on to the next item.
The next item is K5, Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office Report, an update on the activities of the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office. This matter will be presented by Ms. Thompson.
Good afternoon, Chair Vasquez and honorable board members. I'm Lisa Thompson, the Chief of the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office. I'm here to provide you with an update of the activities of the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office to keep you informed. I'm pleased to share with you some statistics on the number of cases completed by the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office last month, and then provide some insight on the types of those cases. In November 2021, we completed 21 cases. 4 were in Board Member Gaines's district, District 1. 10 were in Board Member Cohen's district, District 2. 5 were in Board Member Vasquez's district, District 3. And 2 were in Board Member Schaefer's district, District 4. Of the 21 cases completed, 2 were in the administrative category and 19 were in the valuation category. The administrative category includes topics such as creating and mailing of tax bills, refunds, penalty cancellations, defaulted taxes, access to data, special assessments, or direct levies on the property tax bill. And the valuation category includes topics such as change in ownership, declines in value, appraisal methodology, exclusions, exemptions, new constructions, actual enrollment of values, general property taxation, and assessment appeals. With respect to the administrative category, 1 case involved delinquent taxes, and the second involved creating and mailing of tax bills. The Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office assisted the taxpayers by providing information about property tax due dates versus delinquency dates. In the case of the delinquent taxes, we also helped the taxpayer understand the availability of payment plans as long as property taxes were not delinquent for more than 5 years. We also helped the taxpayer navigate viewing of taxes owed online with the tax collector's website. With respect to the valuation category and its 19 cases in total, 2 pertain to decline in value, Prop 8 issues. 7 cases addressed exclusions from reassessment, of which pertain to the base year value transfer exclusion for persons age 55 and over. 2 cases pertain to the parent-child exclusion. 1 case involved the welfare exemption. 2 cases addressed new construction. 2 pertain to actual enrollment of values. 1 involved assessment appeals, and 2 cases pertain to general property taxation. For the decline in value cases, the TRA office provided information on California's property tax systems, explaining that for real property, it is assessed annually at the lower factored base year value or market. The TRA office helped the taxpayers understand that they can request an informal appeal or a formal review from the assessor's office, and can provide support to show the market value of the replacement is lower than the assessed value, even if the property was assessed under a decline in value below its factored base year value. We also explained their appeal rights and directed them to resources on our agency's website that can assist them in the appeal process. In this past month of November, there were numerous cases involving exclusions, the majority concerning base year value transfers. 7 of the 9 exclusion cases addressed base year value transfer exclusions for seniors age 55 and over, and 2 of the cases involved the parent-child transfer exclusion. The issues involved with the base year value transfers cases varied among those taxpayers. In 2 of the cases, the taxpayers had purchased their intended replacement property before the April 1st effective date of Proposition 19. And because the property purchased was more than the market value of the original property, and because it was purchased in a different county than the original, then it did not meet the qualifications for the base year value transfer. The Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office explained the requirements of the base year value transfer provisions under Proposition 60 and 90 in place prior to the April 1st effective date of Proposition 19, as well as the requirements for the base year value transfer provisions of Proposition 19. We provided information explaining that prior to April 1st, 2021, the base year value transfer provisions only allowed transfers to other counties if that replacement county had adopted an ordinance accepting base year value transfers from other counties. And we help the taxpayer to understand that if they wanted to take advantage of the Proposition 19 base year value transfer provisions, they could buy another property as long as it was within 2 years of the sale of their original property. With respect to the other 4 of the base year value transfer cases, they concerned the timing of processing applications for base year value transfers under Proposition 19. Taxpayers contacted our office with concerns that they needed to pay taxes on a higher amount and wait for the assessor's office to process the base year value transfer claims. In some cases, the assessor's office had told the taxpayers that they were holding off processing base year value claims because the law for Proposition 19 had only recently passed. The Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office explained to taxpayers that although Proposition 19 was approved by the voters in November of 2020, implementing legislation for Proposition 19 had only recently passed on September 30th, 2021. The Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office also explained that the 2021 property tax bill represents the property's assessed value as of the January 1st, 2021 lien date, which was that of the prior owners, and that roll value cannot change. We explained that once the assessor's office approves a base year value transfer claim, a negative supplemental would be issued for the difference between that amount on the assessment roll and the amount that the assessor determines to be the new taxable value of that replacement property, considering the transferred taxable value and any excess market value. Additionally, we help taxpayers understand that there is a lot of work in processing base year value claims, especially when the original property is located in a different county than the replacement. The assessor's office must coordinate with the other county to obtain information on the market value of the original property, as well as on its factored base year value, and then adjust it for any time to the purchase date of the replacement. To help taxpayers understand what information is obtained by the replacement county, we directed them to a sample of the form BOE Form 19C, Certification of Value by Assessor for Base Year Value Transfer, which is posted to our website in the forms area for forms that are used by assessors' offices. In all these cases, we coordinated with the assessor's office to confirm that they had received the base year value claim, and where appropriate, we advised the taxpayer that they had not provided a full assessor's parcel number representing the condo they purchased. So we had asked the assessor's office to make note of that, and they did. The remaining base year value transfer case pertained to the denial of a base year value transfer after the taxpayer completed construction on a home that the taxpayer built on land that was in part inherited from his family. The TRA office researched the situation, found that the taxpayer, along with 2 siblings, had inherited vacant land when their parents had died, and subsequently the taxpayer bought 2/3 of the property from his siblings. The TRA office explained that the assessor's office was correct in not approving the base year value transfer because 1/3 of the interest of the land was inherited by him. Therefore, it did not meet the requirement that both the replacement and the original must be purchased for consideration. The Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office provided the taxpayer with resources confirming the unavailability of the base year value transfer under Proposition 60, since the taxpayer's portion of the land was not purchased for consideration, and we directed them to LTA 2006-20 and several property tax annotations. With respect to the 2 parent-child exclusion cases, one involved a taxpayer that inherited property after her mother passed away and later sold it, and the other involved the inheritance of legal entity interests. For the taxpayer that sold the property, the TRA office coordinated with the assessor's office to confirm receipt of the claim and ask for the status of the processing of that claim. since the taxpayer indicated the assessor's office had acknowledged a mistake. We then explained to the taxpayer that the roll correction to cancel the supplemental assessment had not yet been processed, and once the assessor and auditor's office completed its work, the auditor's office would issue a refund and adjust the amount of property taxes owed. We helped the taxpayer to understand that the assessor's office, by doing a roll correction, did not mean that they had made a mistake, and that a roll correction is a term used to change, to reflect a change in value that was assessed on a particular assessment roll, such as in the case where an exclusion is granted. We also indicated that an exclusion is from change in ownership, which a parent-child exclusion is, and that is not automatic, which a taxpayer must apply for, and then the assessor determines whether that claim is approved, which takes some time to process. For the taxpayer that inherited a legal entity that owned California property, the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office explained that the parent-child exclusion does not apply to transfers of interest in legal entities, and that the parents would have had to own the property as an individual for that to count for the parent-child exclusion. We also directed the taxpayer to resources on our agency's website regarding the parent-child exclusion to help the taxpayer understand why it did not apply to transfers of interests in legal entities. The TRA office completed work on one exemption case, which pertained to the welfare exemption. The TRA office provided information on the co-administration of the welfare exemption with our agency, determining the organization itself qualifies for the welfare exemption, and the county assessor where the property is located, which is responsible for determining if the property of a qualifying organization qualifies for exemption. We also coordinated with our agency's property tax department to determine receipt of the claim for organizational clearance certificate and ensured that the taxpayer understood they did not need to wait to file the welfare exemption claim on their property until the organization was issued an OCC. With respect to two cases involving new construction, they involved a disagreement of the assessed value after they had completed new construction. The Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office provided information on what is considered new construction for property tax purposes and provided the taxpayers with resources. Additionally, we explained appeal remedies if the taxpayers disagreed with the assessed value of the new construction for that base year value, or if they felt at any future time the market value was lower than the assessed value on a subsequent lien date. The next cases completed by the TRA office pertain to the actual enrollment of values. In one of the cases, we provided information on the statute of limitations for corrections and the appeal period for the base year value for completed new construction. And for the other case, the TRA office explained to the taxpayer what was needed to support that a boat was no longer owned by the organization as of the 2021 lien date in order for the assessor to cancel the assessment. The remaining three cases involved assessment appeal and general property taxation. With respect to the case involving appeals, the taxpayer had concerns about the historical assessment of his family's property. Our office provided information on appeal filing periods and coordinated with the assessor's office to ensure that his questions were responded to. With respect to the cases involving general property taxation, one pertained to state assessed property and the other one pertained to local assessment. The Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office explained that when property is assessed by the State Board of Equalization, there is a unitary value determined for the state assessee, and that unitary value is allocated to the various counties and districts, so they will not have a specific tax bill for each and every property they own, like a person would on a home. The TRA office also helped the taxpayer understand California's property tax system, and that for locally assessed property, each year property is assessed at the lower of factored base year value or market, as well as the assessor's process for reflecting change in ownership for a new owner. We directed the taxpayer to resources on our agency's website concerning California's property tax system. And in one case, we provided a chart to the taxpayer showing that each year's assessed value since they purchased it 5 years ago, and how the application of the inflation factor based on the CPI was applied to arrive at the factored base year value. Additionally, since the taxpayer was concerned about licensing and increasing property taxes and not being able to afford them, when he retired, the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office advised that taxpayer about the availability of the property tax postponement program from the State Controller's Office. To provide some additional insight on the workings of the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office with respect to the defaulted tax case, the Taxpayer Rights Advocate was contacted by the taxpayer's daughter because her daughter found out that her elderly mother was behind on paying her property taxes for several years. The daughter was concerned that the mother would lose her home, so she reached out to our office. Our office helped this taxpayer understand that the property owner can ask the tax collector to enter into a payment plan as long as taxes have not been delinquent for 5 years. We explained to the taxpayer that our review of the tax collector's website confirmed that the 2017 taxes had been paid, so she would be able to enter into a payment plan. We also explained that once her mother was current on her property taxes, then she could look into the property tax postponement program offered by the State Controller's Office, since that could be of benefit to her. This is particularly important because a taxpayer must apply for that program each year, and the application period is over a 5-month period. And this year, that filing period opened October 1st, 2021 and ends February 10th, 2022. Whenever a taxpayer expresses financial difficulty and that they may meet some of this criteria, such as being elderly or disabled, we always make them aware of the availability of that property tax postponement program that could be beneficial to them. Additionally, I would like to inform the members about the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office and that we have had a new member join our team. We hired an associate property appraiser and she began working on taxpayer cases in November, and we are pleased to have an additional member to help taxpayers. The last item I want to update you about is on concerns taxpayer education. At the August board meeting, Board Member Cohen inquired about taxpayer education, followed by other board member discussion and the value to taxpayers. In 2022, part of our plan for the taxpayer education is to work in collaboration with the California Assessors Association to identify the top 5 issues or topics in need of taxpayer education, then develop materials addressing those areas. At future board meetings, I will provide you with further updates to keep you informed. That concludes my update. I'm available if you have any questions.
Thank you. Members seeing no hands or comments, I would just make a brief comment that actually at our last franchise tax board meeting, they were giving kudos to you, Ms. Thompson, and your department for doing such a great job. And people were asked, actually the public was asking that the FTB might want to take a look at your examples.
Oh, well, thank you. I have a great team, so I owe it all to them. Thank you.
Kudos. Any other comments or questions? Oh, Ms. Stowers, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Vasquez. Thank you, Ms. Thompson. I just want to give you kudos as well, and thank you for cross-marketing your property tax postponement program. It's a very important program for those who are qualified, so they can have their taxes postponed for a year or so. So again, thank you very much. Great report.
Seeing no other hands or comment. Oh, Member Cohen, go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to say great job. Great report.
Thank you. Ms. Taylor, we don't have any written comments on this, do we?
We do not have any written comments.
Can we check with AT&T?
Yes. AT&T moderator, can you let us know if there is anyone who would like to make a public comment on this matter?
Yes, please press 1 and then 0 if you have a comment. 1 and then 0 if you have a comment. And no one in queue, Ms. Taylor. Back to you.
Thank you. With that, Ms. Taylor, if you'd please call the next item.
The next item is L1A, issues raised by 2nd District County Assessors during the annual meeting of the Board of Equalization and County Assessors. Recommendations regarding issues raised by the 2nd District County Assessors during that meeting. This matter will be presented by Member Cohen.
Member Cohen, you're up.
Great. Thank you very much, colleagues. I'll be tight and succinct as I can. So during the Board of Equalization 2nd District breakout session of the annual meeting with the Board of Equalization and the County Assessors, this was held on October 19th, 2021. There were several county assessors that expressed interest in pursuing proposals that address ongoing challenges impacting property tax administration and their offices. And while those concerns may not be universal to every county in the district, I think that it's prudent that we present these proposals here before the board so that we can initiate a review and most importantly have a discussion during the upcoming board meetings, so that it's possible that some of the issues raised are also, so that it's possible that because some of the issues that are raised and faced in my county, maybe other county assessors and other equalization districts would be able to either know how to solve or how to address. So bringing these issues to light now provides us with an opportunity to ensure that our property tax administration practices and that we're ensuring that it's a statewide guidance as well as service to all of our 58 county assessors. So I'm just going to go over briefly the list, and here they are. So here are the issues that were raised. First, this is pertaining to the subject matter of training for members of assessment appeals boards. This is a really interesting topic. So the assessment appeals boards, which I'll also refer to as the AABs. The AABs are charged with performing often complex analysis and analyses of data and evidence, challenging or supporting property valuations. And in the interest of supporting the AABs, it's been suggested that a training program be established to provide guidance to AAB members on the valuation issues. Here at the Board of Equalization, I could leverage its training. You could leverage the training as well, along with any other training at the county level to ensure that AAB members have the best knowledge to perform their critical valuation duties. Now, another topic had to do with training for county councils. And similarly, just like training for AABs, county councils provide legal guidance on property tax issues to the county assessors as well as to AABs. And their duties are to ensure that county councils possess the knowledge and expertise to provide guidance on a myriad of complex property tax issues. It's been suggested that a training program be established to enhance the skills of county councils who provide guidance on these particular property tax issues. Now, the third topic that I want to discuss is the acceptance of electronic signatures. During the pandemic, the requirement was reviewed about having wet signatures on documents submitted to the assessor's offices. Now, wet signatures have historically been required to ensure that the authenticity of documents filed. However, with modern technologies, third-party verification or second-party two-tier verification processes that we go through ourselves even when we're logging onto our own system, it's likely that the requirement for wet signatures is outdated. Now, there's been a lot of consternation around this issue. It's been suggested that the requirement of wet signatures on documents submitted to county assessors' offices be eliminated, and that electronic signatures be accepted as a regular course of business. This may require a statutory resolution in order to be achieved. The fourth topic that I want to talk about is the review of depreciation, valuation guidance, and schedules. As part of the Board of Equalization's constitutional and statutory responsibility, it is incumbent upon us to provide guidance on the valuation of property and the BOE issued assessor handbooks. And many of these handbooks include depreciation schedules. And these schedules, in addition to them, we present good factors or other guidance to ensure that there is accurate valuations, again, that equalizes this process so that it's consistent throughout every county in the state. It's been suggested that the Board of Equalization review its depreciation value guidance and schedules to ensure that valuation procedures, the methods, and the recommendations are consistent with contemporary values. And I want to lean in on this. I think this is actually really important and very interesting. One of the assessors at the District 2 breakout sessions suggested that a review of the schedule is in order, and as an example offered up that the depreciation schedule for food manufacturing is 15 years old, and this assessor suggested it could be shorter. And I tend to agree, but we have not studied it, we have not discussed it. This is kind of just on a gut level. I know that things have changed in 15 years. Our technology has changed, how we communicate, how we operate has changed. So I would imagine that there was a shorter timeline that we could use in this schedule for the depreciation schedule for food manufacturing. Now, while saying this, I also recognize the excellent work of our property tax division staff in preparing and issuing the assessor handbooks. There may be an opportunity here for some additional reviews of the depreciation schedule and the schedule to ensure that they reflect the real world practices. So, of course, ongoing staffing and funding issues will likely have to be addressed before we can have a perfect solution for updating our assessor handbook. The fifth topic that I want to need to let Yvette back in. The fifth topic that I wanted to discuss is enhancing funding for state supplementation for the county assessors program. This is the the SCAP, is what people in our industry calls it. So finally, I'll close on this, but I believe that it would be prudent for us to acknowledge the ongoing personnel and technology challenges facing county assessors' offices. The state of California in 2018 Budget Act appropriated $5 million to create the state supplementation for county assessors program as a 3-year pilot program. And this has been a wildly, I'd say, exciting program, but not without its challenges, like most things from the government, right? The SCAP funds, they're available for both new assessment staff and for technological improvements, but what they do is they require a local match at the rate of $1 local dollar for every $2 the county receives in the SCAP funds. This works for the wealthier counties, but it provides a challenge for the more rural counties or counties with just a smaller budget. Here's a fact. In 2019, the agency and the California Assessors Association joined my office in discussions with the administration about expanding this program to increase funding and change the criteria to increase smaller county participation and their ability to leverage these grant dollars. Well, it's been suggested that expanding this program could be beneficial due to prior success in utilizing grant funds to address technology and personnel challenges in local assessors' offices. So, in the interest of fulfilling this body's constitutional and statutory responsibilities, what I'd like to do now is to ask the executive director to report to the board and the agency, report to the board her recommendations on possible BOE actions that we may take to address the issues that I just raised, all 5 of them. And I'd also like to suggest that the executive director consult with the CAA in developing a response to these items. So at this time, in closing, I'd like to respectfully ask board members and colleagues to join me in this request. Let's discuss it. And I'd like to make a motion to be a part of our discussion, Mr. Chair, if I may go ahead and read this motion into the record.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. So my motion is to ask the executive director to report to the board her recommendations on possible Board of Equalization actions that we may take to, as well as the agency actions for the BOE, as well as the agency that we may take to address the issues raised in this L item. And to recommend that the executive director consult with the California Assessors Association in developing her response to the board on this item. That's my motion. There's no time limit on this, by the way. Ms. Fleming, Merry Christmas to you. There's no time limit. However,
accept it.
However, I think that it's important work, and so I don't want you to feel that pressure, but I really look forward to looking and reviewing what your suggestions would be. So, Mr. Chair, that is my motion. I don't know if there's a second, but let me know if you need me to restate or clarify anything. Thank you, colleagues. That's it for me.
I see a hand from Ms. Stowers.
Thank you, Chair Bassler. I'm going to go ahead and second the motion, mainly for discussion purposes. I want to say I appreciate what Ms. Cole is doing, sharing the concerns that was raised by the assessors in the 2nd district from that meeting that you guys had in October. I really appreciate it since I'm not a party of that meeting. So at least I have an idea of what the 2nd district assessors are saying. I do support a review of the issues identified within your item, and with the executive director going out and speaking with the CAA and seeing if there's what should be done, what should we do? Is it just a one-off issue for the 2nd district assessors, or is this throughout the state? So I do support that. As far as one of the items, I think is kind of the assessor handbook dealing with, I think it's section 581. I would like for the executive director to really, I'm not saying take it off the table, considering that we just adopted the most recent changes to that handbook, and Mr. Young explained that they do a deep dive every year on that issue. But I would like for the director and her staff to kind of double check that and make sure there is a deep dive. I don't want to take anything off the table. So I want to make sure that we're doing a thorough analysis on how we may need to improve our processes, and including if this change in process is going to cause the state or the assessors, the counties, any money, to consider that fiscal impact as well. And I also kind of will be curious for the other districts. I mean, you guys also met with your assessors. Oh, I just lost my video. Good thing my phone is working. You guys also met with your assessors, and I don't know, again, because I'm not a party of it, if you guys had similar concerns raised. That's all I have to say for right now.
Thank you. I just want to say, Ms. Towers, thank you. You have been a trooper throughout this entire meeting. I've seen you come in and come out and freeze and like, I don't know what's going on. Maybe this is an indication that we just need to end the board meeting on a positive note and just upgrade our technology for 2022. But with that said, I share with your interest. I would love to know what happened in other districts as well, because I suspect that there may be some symmetry, and the issues that are affecting District 2 are universal. But I don't want to make that assumption without checking with my colleagues. So I join you in that request to find out what's going on.
Let's see no other hands. Yeah, I'm supportive of this proposal, and I know many of these things, like you mentioned, I think, and then we've heard from some of the staff already, are moving forward. But I think whatever we can do to facilitate and moving forward, because I think you're right on in terms of other counties throughout the state. I know in our meeting in LA, at least when I was working with LA folks in Ventura, these issues came up, especially on the AAB training. And I think whatever we can do to move that along and hopefully try to expedite it as quick as possible would be helpful. But those are just my initial thoughts at this point. Oh, Member Gaines, I see his hand up.
Yeah, I want to thank Member Cohen for bringing this forward. And my thought is that if we could try to take a look at what might have commonality throughout the state. And she mentioned several items, and you highlighted it, Tony. The aspect of some training for the assessment boards, I think, would be really helpful. And I also like this idea of taking a look at depreciation tables too. If things could be sped up for particular industries, I'd be really open to taking a look at that and see if it made sense. I thought that was a good suggestion. I think, did that have to do with agriculture, Member Cohen?
That's an interesting question. Yes, but not as much as what goes on in your district, sir. So yeah. Let me know. Let's explore it. I mean, I have some agriculture, needless to say, right? You think about the wine making industry. I'm thinking about Monterey County also, but I think the lion's share of agriculture still rests in District 1 with you. You're District 1, right? Yeah. Okay, so tell me, what are your assessors saying? You're muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'd like to take a look at the depreciation tables. I think that would be helpful in my district. And I think in terms of training, I think that would be very helpful for the assessment board, so that the members have a kind of a base of knowledge when it comes to valuation. And in some cases that, you may have people that are experienced on property valuation where that might be very basic, but at the same time, sometimes you have individuals that don't have a background and they're serving that capacity. So those are a couple areas that I think I'd like to see, and I think I would love to hear from the other board members to see what their thoughts are too. But in terms of the idea and what you want to move forward with, I'm in support of it.
So does that mean, is that a second to the motion?
I think you have a second already.
I already seconded the motion.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I did not hear that, but you're right.
Okay.
Unless you need a third.
No, I don't need a second. All I need is a second, and then we can keep moving.
Yeah, then we're prepared to go to public comment and vote, members, if you're ready.
Perfect. I'm ready. There's no other discussion. Great.
You're muted, sir.
Let's just check with Ms. Taylor real quick. We don't have any written comment on this, do we?
We do not have any written comments.
Well, let's just check with AT&T then real quick before we vote.
Sure. AT&T moderator, can you let us know if there is anyone who would like to make a public comment on this matter?
Yes, please press 1 and then 0 for a comment. 1 and then 0. And there are presently no comments.
Okay, with that, Ms. Taylor, if you would please call the roll on the motion.
All right, I'll just restate the motion on the floor is the executive director to report to the board her recommendation on possible BOE actions.
Oh, wait, one more thing. I'm sorry, Ms. Taylor, because I want to make sure that we get this correct. Not only report back to the board, but I also am asking the executive director to collaborate with the Assessors Association. So I just want to make sure that that language is inserted into the motion.
Okay, I was going to put it at the end. Would that?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay, all right.
No problem. The motion on the floor is executive director to report to the board her recommendation on possible BOE actions that the board may take, the board and the agency may take to address the issues raised in this L item, and with the ED consulting with CAA in developing her response.
Sounds good.
Chairman Vasquez.
Members, this is Brenda Fleming, Executive Director. If I can make just, I'm trying to overstep my boundaries, but one minor amendment, if I could offer to that, and that is not just to confer with CAA on the development of my response, but on the plan. So Ms. Taylor, I just want to make sure, because the response is one thing, but to plan this involves a little bit more. So I just want to make sure that that correction is noted, please. Thank you, members, for your indulgence.
All right, Chairman Vasquez.
Aye.
Vice Chair Schaefer.
Aye.
Member Gaines.
Aye.
Member Cohen.
Aye.
Deputy Controller Stowers.
Aye.
So that's unanimous of all those present. With that, Ms. Taylor, if you would please call the next item.
The next item is M1, Public Policy Hearings, discussion on the implementation of Proposition 19, the Home Protection for Seniors, Severely Disabled, Families, and Victims of Wildfire or Natural Disasters Act of 2020. There are no staff reports or external speakers for this agenda item for this month's meeting. However, persons who wish to address the board on this topic as a public comment may do so. This matter will be presented by Chairman Vasquez.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Once again, as we keep this as an ongoing issue, especially with Prop 19, all the changes that are happening and hopefully down the road amendments that are coming, let me just open up this hearing to the public. And if there's nobody wishing to weigh in right now, let me just check with Ms. Taylor if there's any written comments on this.
We do not have any written comments on this item.
Can we check with AT&T before you move on?
Certainly. AT&T moderator, can you let us know if there is anyone who would like to make a public comment on this matter?
Yes, 1 and then 0 for comments. Please press 1 and then 0 for comments. And we presently have no comments.
Thank you. The only thing that I would just mention is that I know next month it looks like we'll have a little bit more an in-depth report from at least our staff on some of the movement that's happening with these potential initiatives and as amendments that may be moving forward within the legislature on making some adjustments to Prop 19. And with that, let me ask Ms. Taylor if she would call the next item.
The next item is N, public comment on matters not on the agenda. Persons who wish to address the Board of Equalization regarding items not on the agenda. Please note that the board cannot take action on items. However, the board can schedule issues raised by the public for consideration at future meetings.
Are we checking with AT&T on this?
Right, we have a written comment, sir?
Oh, we do. Go ahead.
Yes. This is a letter from Mr. Ben Lee, Tax Counsel, California Taxpayers Association. The California Taxpayers Association thanks you for the opportunity to provide comments on suggested revisions to LTA 2021/002 regarding remote hearings for assessment appeals boards during the COVID-19 pandemic. Although we are aware that the Board of Equalization is still working on this issue, CalTax has some concerns that it would like to share with the board. CalTax appreciates all of the hard work of the agency and staff have put into this issue and the extensive effort from stakeholders to provide detailed input and feedback. Although there are benefits that remote hearings have provided during these remarkable times, CalTax echoes concerns made by others regarding any permanent requirement of forced remote hearings. Remote hearings are suitable for some appeals, but a one-size-fits-all approach in which all taxpayers could be required to have their appeal in a fully remote setting is problematic. Certain disputes involve complex and intricate issues that benefit from an in-person setting. For example, complex appeals may involve countless pieces of evidence, making it more difficult for the taxpayers to present their case in a remote setting. During an in-person appeal, taxpayers can refer to specific exhibits with the assurance that board members and others have the materials readily available. In a remote hearing, however, there is no assurance that the evidence referred to will be in front of the participants, making it more arduous for taxpayers to present their case zealously. To safeguard taxpayers' due process rights and ensure that all parties are able to present their case in a meaningful hearing, taxpayers must continue to have the opportunity to determine the format of their appeal hearing. Additionally, a virtual setting may make it more difficult for the appeals boards and parties to evaluate the veracity of witnesses. Witnesses appearing in a virtual setting could refer to notes without being detected or could be coached by others out of the video camera's view. An in-person setting allows appeals board members and the parties to adequately judge the veracity of a witness and ensure that there is no improper conduct occurring. Furthermore, in certain counties, some parties have been allowed to appear at the hearings in person, while the other party participated remotely. This situation could provide an advantage to the party appearing in person and put the taxpayers at disadvantage. Taxpayers should retain the option to choose the format of their appeal hearing to avoid these types of potential issues. Other administrative adjudicatory bodies in California have and continue to provide taxpayers with control over the format of their hearings. The agency tasked with the handling administrative tax appeals, the California Office of Tax Appeals, has provided taxpayers the option of holding their hearings remotely or delaying them until an in-person option is available. While this may not be a perfect comparison, it illustrates that a similar election in the property tax appeals arena is warranted and practicable. To preserve taxpayers' due process rights and guarantee the opportunity for all parties to present their case in a meaningful hearing, the board should continue to allow taxpayers the discretion to select the hearing format for their appeals. Lastly, LTA 2021/002 should be revised to ensure consistency in the rules regarding document submission deadlines and the penalty for failure to meet those deadlines. While we understand the need for a bit of lead time to avoid unduly burdening the county clerks, the LTA should make clear and include language that the penalty for failure to meet the document submission deadline is a continuance of the hearing. For in-person hearings, the offended party is allowed to request a continuance if the other party seeks to introduce new evidence or documents the day of the hearing. A similar rule should be instituted for virtual hearings that would allow for a continuance if either party seeks to introduce evidence after the document submission deadline. Thank you again for the opportunity to provide feedback on the proposed revisions to LTA 2021/002. If you have any questions about these comments, please contact us. That concludes the comment today.
Thank you. Can we check with AT&T if there's anybody on the line who wishes to speak?
Yes, certainly. AT&T moderator, can you let us know if there is anyone who would like to make a public comment on this matter?
For comments, please press 1 and then 0. 1 and then 0 on your touch-tone phone. There are no comments. Back to you.
Thank you. With that, members, I want to know that the board's work group on wine industry and the wine group excise tax data will convene immediately upon the adjournment of this regular board meeting. And with that, I just wanted to wish everyone a happy, healthy, and safe holidays. And also a happy new year, because our next meeting will be in January the 25th and 26th. But before we adjourn, I just wanted to also announce that tomorrow's meeting is being canceled. It's my understanding we were able to complete everything today, so there's no need to reconvene tomorrow for our second meeting. Is that correct, Steph?
That is correct.
And unless there's somebody that has any adjournments for the day, the only thing I'd wanted to just adjourn in honor all the lives we've lost in this tornado that just hit. I don't know, people have been following the news. I mean, it's getting close to 90 people so far. And I mean, they're still going through all the debris where this tornado in Kentucky, where it touched down. It's my understanding that's where it hit probably the hardest. It literally touched down over 200 miles, which I understand is a record. Not that's a record you want to break, but so it was a devastating tornado that hit these folks in the evening, and we're still waiting on the count. And the only other adjournment I have is that I just wanted to also adjourn in honor of, they called him El Rey, Vicente Fernandez, who we lost, a well-known folk singer, originally from Guadalajara, Mexico, but was well-known here in the States. He actually has a star on the Walk of Fame there in Hollywood. And it happened Sunday, and since then, it's been growing and growing, and there's so many tributes and flowers and dedications, and it's been all over the news, both on the English and the Spanish networks. And I just wanted to chime in and also weigh in and adjourn in his honor. A very great man and very giving, not only to the public, but to many folks around the world. And I see a couple hands, so there might be a couple other adjournments. Member Gaines.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to take this opportunity to give thanks for the rain and snow that we're getting. So that's important for the entire state. It's important in my district because there's a lot of tourism that's derived as a result of snow. I know that they've received 5 feet of snow in the Sierra, so that is good for the Christmas holiday and good for skiing and restaurants. But also the snowpack is really good for water statewide. So I just wanted to highlight that. And I want to wish everybody a happy Merry Christmas, Merry Holiday, Hanukkah, and spend time with your families and enjoy your time. We have a lot to be thankful for. Thanks.
And speaking of family members, I hear one screaming back there. I guess she's got something to say about the holidays too. And I don't see you on the screen, Member Cohen, but I think you had your hand up too, no?
They said they heard somebody scream. No, it was actually me, Chair Vasquez.
Oh, is it Ms. Stowers? I'm sorry, Ms. Stowers, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I think I want to follow Member Dainsley and say Merry Christmas, Happy Holiday, Happy Hanukkah. Wait for me. Anything else that we celebrate, but Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
And thank you for the snow. I see you guys on the slope.
Vice Chair Schaefer, I believe you have also some closing remarks or adjournments, maybe.
Yes, Chair Vasquez, you know, I often commemorate important birthdays in the world, and we have a very important birthday in 2 days on December 16th of a leader of California, who is a new mother this year, who has been police commission president in San Francisco, who's been chairman of the board of supervisors of the city and county of San Francisco, and who is our incoming new repeat chairman of the board, Malia Cohen, who I want to extend our warm love and affection and holiday greetings to her.
You know what? That's really, really sweet. I appreciate that because you definitely honor and recognize a lot of great folks in the state of California. So thank you, everyone.
And
Thank
also
you all.
Madison, our happy holidays to Madison. Bring Madison down here to go on her merry-go-round when she's old enough, okay? And
Yes,
the zoo.
absolutely. And the zoo, yes.
And the zoo, you ditto.
I have free passes to that.
So I just also want to say thank you very much. It's been an incredible year. And appreciate you all for being flexible with me as we work from home and you hear Madison in the background, and I've had to turn my camera off, and everything from nursing to feeding to just speaking about the issues. So I just want to appreciate my
She wants to weigh in too.
Yes. She was born on almost literally on Zoom with this body, so
Pretty much.
it's interesting to have her grow up in front of the Teams platform. But thank you. Okay, that's it. Bye-bye.
She said that's it. Bye-bye.
With that, members, if there's no other closing remarks or adjournments, and we'll officially close out this meeting today. I guess I have 3:56, and we'll reconvene in January on the 25th. But we will go on now after we officially adjourn this meeting and begin the board work group on the wine industry and the wine group growers excise tax data working group.